Several different things from nostalgia, community, and really the fight to preserving gaming history. All that ties into mental health and wellness as well. So let's start by meeting our other panelists. Can you go ahead and give us your name, what you do, and your favorite retro game?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Derek, and I do a lot of things. I'm rather eclectic like that, but you'll probably notice I have the shirt on with this dinosaur on it. Nomnivore Games, you'll be able to find my booth actually on the show floor there. That's what I'm typically known for, which is designing specifically games built around like neurodivergent physical disability accessibility as a way to help promote people's mental health through building cool connections through games. I also teach on the subject at like the college level, so if anyone's interested in like how you design games, do that type of stuff, that's kind of where that is. Happy to kind of talk your ear off about that subject, and that's probably what we'll be bringing in this panel too, talking about specifically how like the preservation, mental health, all of it ties specifically to accessibility and how that's important to people. And then for my favorite retro game, I don't know if this counts as retros for everybody here, but I feel like it's old enough for me to list Chrono Trigger.
Sure is.
Wow.
But yeah, there we go.
I love that. That's a great pick.
Yeah, of course.
I didn't give my favorite
Yeah,
retro game.
you got it.
So I'm not going to go that far back. If I went all the way back, it would be probably it's very nostalgic. It's Pitfall. I love the science world. I love Pitfall. But my one thing that I want to jump into is if you had to describe your retro comfort game, what would it be?
This is going to sound really weird, but probably my comfort pick would be Tetris. But specifically because I take a lot of pleasure in watching my wife stress out at playing it. So like I get a lot of comfort watching her to be like, why can't I ever, like that thing.
That's funny too because Melissa loves Tetris. It's
Really?
like one of her favorite games that she plays.
We should have them like play head to head against each other.
We can do that this weekend.
Yeah.
My comfort game is actually the original Warcraft. I love just the ambiance that it makes. I can play it, and it just is very zen for me. Same thing with like Age of Empires type thing, Command and Conquer. I love those kind of games where you're kind of building up the structure, the civilization, and everything, and then you're fending off, people. And it's real comfort because it's nostalgic to me because we, back in the day, PCs, it wasn't all hooked up to the internet, so we had networked 3 computers in our house, and our father was the GOAT of Warcraft and StarCraft. Like, he would take on 10 computer enemies at the same time, and he would just completely dominate us.
Like set higher than easy mode, right? Like
oh yeah, it would be maxed out, and he just had a system, but he was just really good at those games. But it's very comforting because I absolutely love building the civilizations and just discovering a map and everything. I think it's really cool.
Also, I don't know if anyone else can relate to that story where back in the day when we all put on our in quotes boomer / millennial hats, where to get kind of that LAN party going, everyone had to lug their desktops over and then hooking all the yeah. But even that itself is a really comforting memory too, right?
Yeah.
Now everything's so convenient with Bluetooth and stuff.
I know. Yeah. Back in the day when you had to bring your own controller or your own console, let's play. If you did a LAN party, you'd have to bring a TV. There were several times I had to bring a TV with me, and we set it all up in the living room where we had 4 screens. I think that went just recently back with Halo 2, where we were playing online multiplayer.
Does that count as a retro game? How far back are we defining as retro?
I mean,
that's really just to make me feel better, by the way.
It's 20 years. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's 20 years now. Oh my gosh, I'm getting old, really old. But that was a great game. If you've never played it, any of the Halo series at the beginning, 1, 2, or 3, 3 is the best in my eyes. Well, you brought up Chrono Trigger. Do you remember where you were when you first played it?
Yeah, definitely. It's a super powerful memory for me. I was specifically, at the time I was really young. I was 12, and I had built my very first PC, and it was like, what's a computer? And I'm like, okay, well, like, that's where you take this thing called a graphics card, you snap this other thing. It's like, I mean, it sounds super technical, but it's really just kind of like Legos. And after building this, at that point, this like monster of a PC that can run on like, I don't know, like 300 megahertz process, like something super lame now, I was like, I'm gonna go emulate Chrono Trigger. I've heard a lot about this. I've never like played this before, and like back at that time, it was like impossible to find like an SNES cartridge for it, at least in English. So like I was like, I'm gonna see if I can grab something to play it, because I had this really weird piece of tech way back when. I don't know if anyone's heard of like a super UFO. Yeah, okay. So for people who don't know what that is, it basically lets you download ROMs and put them onto floppy disks, or what the younger generation known as the save icon. That's what that is, right? Yeah. You can take those ROMs, stick it onto this UFO that you'd attach to your Super Nintendo, so you could actually play it there. So I didn't even like build specifically this PC to play Chrono Trigger on it. I wanted like the authentic experience on like a CRT screen, so I built it just to download a ROM to put onto a floppy disk, and that's when I played it. It was great.
That's awesome. I love that memory. I'm sure a lot of people can share other memories that they had as well too. And I kind of got ahead of myself for sharing that memory where I was playing Warcraft and everything. And I actually love that. But we could probably sit here and tell stories all day. But really get into it. So let's talk about why retro games still matter today. Retro games offer really it comes down to like simplicity, fewer mechanics, less sensory overload, which makes them great for decompressing. They also connect us with positive memories like we shared, in safe spaces from our past, remembering back to when things were just kind of simpler and just easier to function, where you didn't have to have an entire keyboard and everything. Have you seen anybody play Fortnite? I mean, my God.
I don't have a reaction time to that anymore. Like X, Y, A, B. There we go. Yeah.
No builds for me. But beyond nostalgia, preservation keeps diverse voices and design heritage alive. A lot of these games that we look at as nostalgic paved the way for other games for the future. They inspired others. Hey, what's going on, bud? How are you doing? They paved the way for other games to be developed and encourage people to explore careers and different things in game design, because they wanted to bring something to the table, and it's been amazing going forward. But for me, booting up like Mario 64 or Zelda on the original Nintendo feels like emotional time travel for me. It breaks down to like therapy through pixels, essentially, creating that safe space, and just unplugging for a while, having that temporary escape, and reminiscing, playing these older games that still keeping it alive. Derek, what is it about retro games that keeps us coming back decades later?
I mean, I think there's a lot of that, but like the nostalgia factor, especially like all these pleasant memories we're talking about, is definitely real. It's not just like we can talk a lot about the psychology behind it. Literal mental health nonprofit that he runs, but like I'm also a psychotherapist on top of everything else that I do. And there's definitely like a familiarity, right? Things that breed kind of this passion, pleasure for that. But also, I mean, think about your daily lives right now. You make millions of choices all the time. Life is really stressful, as you're hashtag adulting all the time through, and right, and being able to return to those moments where you're like, this was a great time where I had this fun, and not just fun, but like guaranteed fun. This was a great moment. It's super powerful. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think part of what you're talking about there is kind of just calling back to these simpler moments. It's almost like a breath, right, from all the typical daily stress that we're going through. Yeah, I love that.
So much. So just a quick show of hands from everybody here. How many of you still own your original consoles or cartridges? That is awesome to see.
I'm glad you guys are at RetroGameCon.
Yeah, right.
This is the
I
place for you.
mean, now, who has the original? We were talking just a second ago. TurboGrafx 16. But that would be way too MVP right there, because not very many of those exist anymore. So, trying to introduce this next section. I don't do panels very often.
You got this.
Thank you. So let's talk about.
Well,
Thank you, Derek.
Of course.
You're my support person. You're coach. So let's talk about preservation. What is preserving games? Also preserve part of us as well. And it's such a powerful question because when we talk about preserving games, we're not just saving codes or cartridges. We're preserving culture, creativity, and memories. Think about it. Games are modern mythology of our time. They tell the stories of who we were, what we dreamt about, and how we connected. Losing them means losing chapters of our shared identities. Right now, studies from the Video Game History Foundation show that 87% of classic video games released in the United States are no longer commercially available in any form. Legally, you just can't play them. They're not available anymore. So that's like if 87% of classic films or books were wiped from existence. Entire generations of stories and innovation would be gone completely. And those games just don't represent companies, they represent people, the artists, the coders, the fans who poured themselves into those worlds. Oh, I thought you were going to say something.
I mean, I can. There's definitely something I want to add. Just doesn't wait.
No, sure. No. When we lose access to those games, we lose the memories of the communities, the friendships we built around them, the lane parties, the arcade rivalries. Like that's going way back. I don't know if anyone remembers like Aladdin's Castle arcade or anything. That was kind of like a Little Lives arcade.
Yeah.
There was a lot of tournaments and stuff. Or actually, I think it was like Street Fighter back then.
Yeah.
Late night co-op sessions that shaped who we are. So preserving games is preserving us as a whole, our creativity, our history, and the emotional snapshots of the moments those pixels held for us.
This is actually where I'm going to interject because this is a pretty good kind of supplementary point to that. Like typically when we think about preservation, we're thinking about our past. We're thinking about these moments that we've had that can be taken from us, right? But that's not all it is. It's also something that relates to our future too. Think about all these amazing moments you've had where you wanted to share it with people, new people, right? Like you're like, oh man, this game meant a lot to me. I really want my friend to have a chance to try this, or like your significant other, maybe even let's say your kids, right? And to not have that option anymore is awful. Like how do you express that? Games are this really unique form of media. It's unlike, let's say, movies or books where you passively kind of go through something. You're directly interacting with it. You're forming this really cool meaning. And being able to do that together is amazing. I don't know. It feels a little bit to me like going on like a fishing trip with your dad, right? And not having the option to do that anymore. Like literally the lake's dried up. Like sorry, just really. Also, I'm Canadian. You probably caught that in my sorry there, but yeah. So, yeah.
I love the fishing reference there. No, you're absolutely right, and it's.
I don't know.
Oh yes. Yeah. What, you want me to use your mic?
No, just speak into the mic. Yeah.
Oh,
there you go. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm so used to just turning and talking to who's next to me. So. Going beyond that, just with our personal stories and stuff, what are ways communities are leading the preservation movement? And that's really an open question for everybody. And when I think of things, you brought up emulators. With your first PC that you built, you had to create an emulator to get Chrono Trigger. That is one way that communities and fans are keeping these games alive, by emulating them, making fan-made sites, to provide accessibility to a lot of retro games that are lost and forgotten, just keeping them alive. Also, mods to fix games, and that's not even an old game thing. There are communities making mods to fix problems in games today, like just keeping them, because developers just don't have the funding or technique to do that, but also giving these games second lives. What do you think of other things that communities are doing outside of
I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm aware of and I interact with directly. Like a huge amount of the students I teach in college are likely going to be indie developers, right? Like they're looking at the AAA industry and being like, haha, yeah, okay, that doesn't actually exist. That route's awful. And I'm like, I wish I could disagree, sorry, but like, and they're looking at indies as a way to kind of take these really cool things that they experienced before and kind of create their own spiritual successors to stuff, right? Like the amount of indie games out there that are like odes to Castlevania, for example, is really, really freaking cool. But beyond that, there's also like larger scale gestures that are happening. Like, I don't know how many people are familiar with what the EU recently did with all the petitions to like save games, but it was very much like, hey, don't like corporatocracy everything where we're going to strike down all the emulators, make sure like the only one that owns whatever is the original IP holder. Like, I don't know, I'm assuming everyone knows kind of all the drama related to like the Switch 2 and what's going on there. If not,
who needs physical hardware?
Right, yeah, it's not only no physical hardware, they made it so that like, specifically, if they ever took down kind of whatever it is that Nintendo's providing, you also lose access to those games. They also made it so that the equipment isn't like hackable in any which way, where if you were to try to, it would completely just like brick your hardware, your systems and so forth. They were already experimenting with some of that where like there were specific unique identifier codes to copies of games that you had, so if you ripped it, that particular game couldn't run it anymore, even if you had like now the ability to run it on like an emulator, for example. But like that, can you imagine what that meant for like the secondary market, where like you could buy a copy that somebody else ripped, and now it's also that makes you have to go directly to and I don't know, there are other kind of initiatives where like there's been a lot of pushback against, for example, Steam delisting games that like aren't being preserved anymore. So whatever it is, like ultimately it always feels a lot like the little guy fighting for whatever against like big corporate dollar. But like that's where it is right now that I'm aware of.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I mean, with Nintendo, with their copyrights that they've been doing in the United States lately, trying to corner the market on certain things, it's kind of makes it tough for the little guys, especially the indie developers, to utilize mechanics of games. But I'm sorry. I keep turning my head to talk to that.
Maybe
You wanna
that's
come closer?
Yeah, we can just.
You want to share a mic?
We can, I don't know, like kiss or something, yeah.
I'm so gonna beat you in Mario Kart later tonight.
Not the OG one, though.
No, this is it's gonna be an old one. I didn't bring a 64 with me, but I might buy one on the floor here. So what happens when we lose access to games tied to key emotional or cultural movements? Like if 87% of the classic games are gone, that's even going further back than what Nintendo's doing now, but what does that mean for the next generation trying to understand our era of the games that we played and experienced, and sharing those moments with them that they could never experience as well too? I mean, it would be pretty difficult, wouldn't it? Yep. Sorry, you have a different podium than me. I like yours.
You can have this one if you want.
No, it's fine.
Well, I mean, I can add a little bit to that too. Again, I come from kind of that accessibility space, and we have a saying in accessibility which is pretty it's going to sound pretty silly, but the idea here is everyone wants to live long enough to acquire a disability, right? Because at least then you're kind of slowly breaking down rather than just outright dead. And if you're just slowly breaking down, you can still experience things, you can still live life and enjoy stuff. But if that's the case, then like, can you imagine how much your total like fulfillment in life would suffer if you weren't able to access all your favorite things anymore? Like, oh no, I have like diabetes now, I can't eat ice cream anymore. Like, that'd be awful. But the same idea applies to things like games. Losing the ability to play a game that you used to love. Like, can you imagine, I don't know, like 50 years from now, every nursing home has to come equipped with like the original Pokemon games because we're all that old, right? But like nobody can play because like it's on the GBA and you're like, my eyes don't work that good anymore. But that I think it has the same idea here, where like there's definitely going to be a loss in the quality of life if you don't have access to these games at all anymore, regardless of if there's like tech or anything that can help with your ability to play it. If there's nothing to play, you know. So.
True. So in that same sense, continuing with that, like why returning to old games can be genuinely healing. Like you just brought up, you know, us getting into the homes and everything like that, assisted living and everything, but having those original, you know, for us it would be, for me it would be like the original Nintendo, Atari, other people's you know, Dreamcast, and then the N64, GameCube going on. I think some of the best games came out on PlayStation 2. That's just my point of view there. But I think nostalgia can be a real boost to mood, really, like you just said. You know, help ground us during stress and often comfort during tough times. Replayability games give us a sense of control and accomplishment as well. And co-op games reconnect us with others even years later. You know, for me, it's Warcraft, the original Warcraft, and it's great being able to get on there now where they kind of updated it where you can play other people anywhere. And I mean, it's not that old of a game, but I'm a huge fan of the Destiny franchise. Destiny 1 was a great game for me, and then Halo 2. But going way back last year, for Christmas time, my brother lives in Arizona, came in I haven't seen him in 3 years, came in and we actually pulled out the old N64, and me and my brother played Mario Kart on 64, which was the first time in 3 years I've seen him, and it's been decades since we played N64 ever. I was shocked that it still worked and turned on, and my father's a pack rat, so he still had a TV that ran that, so we played it. It wasn't just a game, it was really healing and reconnecting with my brother, and honestly, for the record, I beat him 3-1.
Okay, very important. Okay, Joe, we know you won.
I'm not bragging or anything.
Okay.
If he was here, I'd be bragging more.
Actually, that's a bit of a fun segue. Like, going back to kind of those older games before, like, we were all connected to the internet. Like, how many people here were like, "Oh yes, you know, I was the best person at like Smash Bros or whatever," and then like you go to a tournament, and you're like, "Wait, actually, maybe not. Like, it's just my friends really suck. They're just a little bit better."
That actually happened to me. I was on N64. I was killing everyone on N64, and then I went to the mall. They had a tournament. I got my ass handed to me.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
It's okay. I can just go back to, you know, couch co-oping or competitively with my friends and
Yeah,
be like, haha, I still can preserve my ego here. Yeah.
Mine was Unreal Tournament on PC in my room. I used to be awesome at PvP, and then I turned on multiplayer and absolutely got wrecked by every match, and I turned that off until Halo came out. Yeah, and that paved the way for certain things too.
Yeah.
How do you feel about like stuff like NSO, block NSO, where they give you, they have the game, but you don't own the game. It's like a temporary service. I'm not a fan of it. I wish you could find the game on NSO.
complex feelings about that. The best place to start is, I think, we're moving to a place where, like, think of it almost a bit like real estate, right? Like, things are getting more and more expensive over time. That's just kind of what it is, and wages don't keep up. And when that happens, you see in the housing market, it switches from owning to renting, right? Same thing with buying outright games. Like, there's a push towards subscription services, you know, where you have access to it as long as you're paying for whatever. And a lot of people, unfortunately, don't have a choice but to go that route. Otherwise, they don't get a chance to experience like a cultural phenomenon, right?
Though Game Pass, though there always is a limit. Like we saw with game people right now are saying, I'm gonna buy Activision 33, I'm not gonna get it on Game Pass.
Yep.
And I mean, you shouldn't be supporting Microsoft anyways, but
Well, I mean, it depends. I feel like if you support them in a way where they're like, oh, you know what, gamers will actually like buy stuff from us, then cool. Then they don't have to jack it. But at the same time, like, I don't know, then give people something that's really worth their money, right?
But the other thing I refer to is, how do you feel about double A games specifically? I'm not referring to triple A stuff, like thinking about Activision 33, which integrate retro elements but with more modern twists. Like Activision 33 is a traditional turn-based JRPG or JRPG.
Yeah.
That's French.
I mean, it's
Like,
witty.
there's like quick time events and stuff in it.
But yeah, like, you know, it's all about the game's all about parrying, and it feels a lot. It's kind of like a mixture of both. They intended it to be. Deadpool intended to be like Final Fantasy 6, like it's like playing Final Fantasy 6, but now you have to. But now you have to pay attention to the competitive patterns.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that the AA industry is where the future of gaming is at. Like, AAA is getting more and more expensive, and that leads to some really important decisions, right? Like, if you have to invest hundreds of billions of dollars into a game, you know, that's the typical budget for developing, let's say, a Call of Duty game, right? You have to make sure it's a success. So they end up spending hundreds of billions more, millions, not billions, on you know, advertising. Because if you can't raise the price tag of a game past $60, you have to find different ways to monetize if the cost of developing doubles every year, which is not even like an exaggeration. And advertising is the first place you go, because you want to go as wide as you can if you can't raise the price. And then afterwards you're like, well, we've got to squeeze more value out of this by either adding microtransactions, battle pass, whatever it is, before you end up you know, putting the game on discount to try and get more people into playing it over time. And you kind of trickle down that way to maximize the total value from that. And then to make sure that you have a slam dunk game next year. Yeah?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Somewhat piggybacking off that,
Yeah.
paid DLCs.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about them, but at the same time, it's like, I'm glad that you don't have to buy a whole new game just to like get extra content anymore, but at the same time, it's like, do I have to?
They are bitter about Legends ZA demanding.
I'm never about Legends ZA, and here's my other question. What happens when you go back to an old game and you realize it isn't as good anymore?
That is a whole other thing.
It is.
They're actually all tied together. So like me talking about the AAA market leading to specifically sequels, right? Like they need to find ways to guarantee that there's a return on that investment, because any loss there, like a little old bomb game, is catastrophic. Because it's like hundreds of millions to billions of dollars that they're losing. That's why you see most of the innovation in indies, but indies don't have the budget to actually polish it to any sort of degree, which is why AA's, I think, are doing it right. They're priced at the right point, they're able to still grow, and they're able to specifically create games in a way that still have a degree of that innovation, to find ways specifically, if you're talking about games like, Expedition 33, where they're paying homage. They're respecting all the things you love about the old games, but as you noted, when you go back to an old game, you're like, wow, this really wasn't as good as I remember. They're updating all the mechanics, the ways to play in a way where it's not as painful to go through anymore. Like, I just picked up the reboot of like FFT, and I'm loving it, especially with all the voice acting, but I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad I have the option to skip like random encounters walking over the map. And the part there that I really love is they took the original game and they just added that as like bonus content. You can play the old version if you want to. I'm never gonna, because I don't have the time to do that anymore and sit through like 80,000 turns doing random encounters I don't want to do. But the fact that it's even there is nice, right? And that I feel like is a good way of doing DLCs, right? If they're giving you kind of something more that really respects your dollar, even if the dollar value sometimes is zero.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing was, my thing about what happens when you go back to a game and you're like, wow, this is as good as I remember. My specific point I was thinking about was Sonic Adventure 2.
Okay, yeah, fair.
Where it's like, oh yeah, you get to play as Knuckles and listen to rap music. Oh shit, I forgot the, excuse my French, oh shoot, I forgot how annoying the treasure hunt system was.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things you kind of turn a blind eye to that you just kind of get through to get to the fun stuff, but like also, actually, specifically due to you bringing up Sonic Adventure, I feel like most people remember all the good stuff about the game just off of the soundtrack. They're just like, yeah, roll it around, speed of sound, right? Like, yeah.
Piggyback again. What happens when the DLC? What happens when the eShops, all the various shops, eShops shut down? Like, what's going to happen? Because I know Sony said they're going to cut support for PS4. They took out the PS3 eShop. So what's going to happen when all the indies and all the digital games and all the DLCs for all those AAA games, when inevitably Steam shuts down? It won't happen for a while, but eventually Steam is going to shut down. Just entropy because of the force of entropy.
Well, that's why it's really important to take steps now towards preservation, right? So, back up all your games, see whatever you can, like, joking aside, that's where you support stuff like, GOG, right? They're doing their best to try and create an entire archive of whatever games that they can save. It's why, like, it's the same kind of approach that I talk about accessibility. I'm like, hey, if you're talking about trying to preserve the ability to play games and make games accessible, by the time you're like 70 and already blind, you're probably gonna have a much harder time than starting now, right? Working towards making that accessibility something that's already there. That's really kind of all I've got to say. Otherwise, hope the corporate overlords decide that re-releasing the thing they took down like 20 years from now will make them a lot of nostalgia bucks off of you, and they'll do it.
I mean, that's a really great point right there, just leading into it. I mean, it's just one of the challenges in access and preservation right there. When eventually these sites and e-stores and everything go down, that's it. We lose access to that as a whole. When a server goes down or a game disappears, it can feel like a piece of our past that was erased without, a goodbye or nothing. It's just gone, all of a sudden, which is 100% correct. Like starting and working with preserving, backing it up on systems, hard drives, keeping copies of it, and then working together as communities to preserve these games and accessibility to them, so other future generations can have access to them and experience them as we did growing up or whatever time period. There are some games that some people play that gets them through tough times. Some people could be extremely stressed out, have a terrible week and this and that, and Stardew Valley could be their thing that just helps them relax. You were talking about games a little bit earlier, and one game that came to mind that where the predecessor of one was not as good as the future. I was a huge fan. I haven't played this in a long time. Grand Theft Auto is a game franchise. I'm sure everybody knows it. Have you ever gone back and played the original Grand Theft Auto? Oh my God, that is a huge difference. And it's hard to play. It's not as good as the future ones, but we've got issues with things like emulation legality of it, accessibility barriers, and the shutdown of the digital stores, like was mentioned. When those vanish, it's not just games disappearing; it's memories, identity, comfort, and so many other things. On that sense, what do you think is the biggest threat to retro gaming preservation right now, and why should everyday gamers care? Do you think it would be the vanishing of those stores?
I mean, I feel like that one we definitely touched on, talking through, like, specifically anyway, because we all live in a capitalist society, for better or worse. There's a lot of push towards what is profitable, and sometimes that isn't preservation. Sometimes that isn't, even mental health, right? Like, even though I'm Canadian, we have, like, quote unquote free healthcare. That's really just shoulders and down. Like, we don't care about your eyes, your teeth, or your mental health. So, like, good luck paying for that out of pocket. But anyway, the point is, there's a lot of things that we end up doing that isn't necessarily good in the pursuit of that. And like we're talking about, like the game itself, the game data. One of the things about specifically video games that we haven't even talked about yet is hardware. Right, like so much of a video game is tied to the technological innovation. Like you literally cannot play like a PS Vita game anymore if your Vita stopped working. Right, I panicked when they were talking, like Harmonix was talking about not doing another Rock Band. I'm like, I'm gonna go out and buy every Rock Band guitar I can because I don't know how long these will last. Right, but yeah, I don't know. There's a bit of like, I think there's at least something that we can do about all that, but like, yeah, like
I think you talked about it pretty good with making companies aware, and companies and publishers and developers aware that keeping these old titles inaccessible is beneficial for future generations. I mean, just so much love and creation and creativity went into these games and everything. It's almost a crime for them to just disappear off the face of the earth and not have future generations experience them, especially when you're at events like RetroGameCon, when this you see this around and people have experienced it, it makes you want to experience that as well too. What was your question?
How do you, speaking about like losing hardware, how do you feel about like these FPGA consoles, like the clones that come out and it emulates the hardware, like Analog does a ton of those?
Oh, I mean, I personally love it. Professionally and legally, that was a joke. But yeah, like one of the things I absolutely love, right? Again, back going with the topic of nostalgia is specifically those arcade moments where like you have the fight cabinet structure where you're playing head to head against someone and not like side by side on a couch. And to do that, sometimes you have to specifically like build an arcade cabinet, emulating whatever. Again, like getting close to, if not literally identical to that experience, I think is super important. Building an entire, let's say, business model off of that is a little morally gray, at least given how things work, but like, I don't know, I have strong words about how IP laws are done too, but like, and that comes from both sides, because I'm also like a content creator, like I do a lot of game design myself, so like I know why it's important, I just don't like how it's executed.
I feel like Analog though, they're not encouraging emulation. It's literally like, hey, you've got a bunch of cartridges lying around, now you can play it like you would play exactly on the original Super Nintendo or whatever.
Yeah, but like what I'm saying is that the effective like console that they're producing for that is still technically doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, it's that's where it gets kind of morally gray, but I also think that's exactly why this isn't a conversation to avoid having, so we should all discuss and lean towards something that would be, better for that preservation.
I mean, there are some companies that are doing something. I mean, everybody walks into a Dollar General or a Family Dollar every blue moon, especially in this economy. I mean, everything's so expensive these days. But you go in, and especially around the holidays, you can. I was blown away at the fact that you could buy a Sega Genesis Mini from there, and you'd have access to like 160 games. It's like, wow, that just makes my whole entire collection from my childhood look like nothing, because there's 80 freaking more titles than I have right here. But it's great having that accessibility and seeing companies taking steps to bring out the NES Mini for people to experience those retro games, and you don't have to get special equipment to hook it up to your flat screen TVs now or anything like that. Because we had to we didn't have any of that for Christmas last year. We had to dig around and find a TV that worked, and I think weighed like 80 pounds. I mean, look, anybody can relate to the old TVs that were more like furniture than they were an actual TV. That was what we played on. My father was using it as like an end table, and we just took the doily off it and plugged it all in.
Yeah, actually, this brings up something that's really interesting. This is going to be such a specific point that I can only make in this panel, but CRT screens and LED screens don't actually generate color the same way, which is why if you take specific like sprite art, let's say, and you have it on a CRT screen, it actually looks warmer. There's a bit of that kind of like fuzzier glow to it, whereas LED is a lot cooler and sharper. So sometimes even when you're playing a game that's been like perfectly ported, it doesn't feel the same because the hardware is different.
Are you aware of all like the upscaler
Yeah.
community?
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that are.
Oh yeah, so like the old system will look like crap on a modern TV. So they make an upscaler, so you plug it in, it will bring it up to 4K, and then people are making filters to make it look like a crappy TV, but in the correct way.
Yeah, yeah, in the authentic way.
The authentic, yeah.
No, I love it when people actually flip it too, when they take like a modern 4K game and then they specifically downscale it so it looks crappy, so you can play it like, oh, look at how retro this feels. Yeah.
This 4K game, 4-3 filter.
All right, well, let's keep this going. Go into just asking you guys some questions if anybody wants to share. What's a retro game that got you through a tough time? Can you think of one? Or
Now I'm getting a voice now. Sonic the Hedgehog, the original one.
The original, yeah.
yeah?
That was gonna be my other answer, right?
It's the
I was
first
like,
RPG I
Chrono
ever
Trigger or
played.
Xenogears, so yeah.
Xenogears, I still have my original Black Label copies and everything.
Okay, that's gonna be worth like a pretty penny.
It would be if my little brother didn't like play the hell out of the first disc and you get stuck.
Oh, well, I mean, just be like, it's almost complete.
I'm sure there's gotta be something that can do for it. The art on the disc is gorgeous.
I mean, just the case alone, or not the game itself, but the case would probably sell for quite a bit too.
I know somebody in the room that posts on social media their Final Fantasy VII original games all the time. Plays the heck out of them. I'll tell you, isn't it the Black Label disc that's actually worth quite a bit?
Yeah.
Pretty sure. Pretty sure.
I've got a really weird, like I have one of the limited releases for FF7 where they released on CD-ROM for the PC. Like I've got that in FF8.
Yeah.
How do you master this stuff?
I don't know, I'm a nerd. Like, that's how I feel now.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Sorry, you had a hand up too. What's your?
I was gonna say probably Final Fantasy VIII for me, because that was my first Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, I mean it's so edgy. It's so
Yeah.
great. Except that I'm still.
And I was like the same age as the characters when I
Yeah.
played it, so I was like, oh my gosh, these guys can be me. And it was all the teen angst and everything, and
Yeah.
my own teen angst, so that was always fun. And Metal Gear Solid 2.
Of
That's
course.
another one.
Yeah, talking about going back to games where you're like, I don't know if I like this as much anymore. Like FF8 is one of those for me. I'm like, I don't know if I relate as much because if I do, I have to like just cringe myself out of existence. So anyway, sorry.
Well, is it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Other hands. Yeah.
I don't know if it's considered a retro game, but the first Mass Effect game got me through.
Yeah.
My brother, my youngest brother, I threw myself in
Yeah. I'm real sad about the way that BioWare has been going, but also the fact that like, I don't know if you saw the recent purchase of EA, but like that's definitely going to end up axing whatever hope there is there. But,
I was gonna say, I got one more for you, the original Resident Evil.
Oh,
That one, that's like my comfort game.
super, yeah.
Yeah, it's the one that it's the one that showed me I could still do tank controls even as an adult. So yeah.
Yeah, I found that one actually easier to play on like a literal fight stick because of the tank controls. But
That would be fun.
yeah.
I'll never forget the snake in the attic.
Final Fantasy 6 is free. Spent
Really?
so many times playing that game. Super Nintendo.
Super Nintendo, okay. I was gonna ask, was like, Super Nintendo, did they have like a
He's
GTA
even got a
release and everything?
physical copy of it.
And the strategy guy.
Nice.
I'm a nerd.
Yeah, I feel like that answer works for everyone, just because I'm a nerd.
I'll never forget, our family did a lot of road trips and stuff, and we had a travel, I can't remember the console, it wasn't a Game Gear, it was something else. It wasn't a Lynx or anything, I can't remember. But it was like Final Fantasy 3 and like Final Fantasy 4 on it. It was the first time I ever played games that I actually had to read to play the game and go on. I got it really into it, and then my brother wanted to play. Oh, let me try it. He took it. I never got it back, ever again. And it killed me for Final Fantasies until 7 came out, because I was just, it just killed me that he stole that game from me and would not give it back. So I never got to finish the game. But BioShock, I mean, I would call it Mass Effect 1, and it's right up there with BioShock. I mean, BioShock came out in like 2006, 2007. It's going on 20 years right there, but
Please stop saying all that. This is not just like dating, this is like carbon dating us.
I know.
Yeah.
It's not going to get any better.
No.
It's just going to get worse as it goes on.
There was, I think, another hand on the back too, yeah.
There is like a third thing. It's just when they release a remaster that take a dump on it. Like with go back to Grand Theft Auto, they re-released the PS2 Grand Theft Autos, and then it was the worst thing ever. Remember when they released the PS2 Grand Theft Autos?
Yep. There are definitely right ways of doing remasters and wrong ways. Yeah.
What do you think about limited run games, where they'll be like, here, we're re-releasing this game, but like not a lot of it, and it's on a physical media, and sometimes the physical media is like crappy.
Yeah, it's good and bad. I totally understand why, because again, I'm on the game dev end, like I publish games. So, like, to be able to release something with physical media, you need to know it's going to sell. And if you don't, it's just a giant hole in your pocket, and that now means you don't have the budget to release a whole other project or game. So I understand why they limit it, because it's based on general interest. In fact, a lot of companies specifically run Kickstarter projects, not because they make money on Kickstarter, but just to see how many people are willing to buy it so they know how to produce stuff. That said, I'd still rather they do it in quality rather than something like just cheap to kind of cash in a little bit.
Yeah, but then there's like big controversy where they release games and it's literally like a CDR or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're trying to find whatever way to bring it back, and I don't know. Like again, there's right ways and wrong ways of doing that. So yeah. Actually, one of the ones that I'm looking forward to and hoping they'll do really right is FF8. I don't think this will ever happen because FF8 does not have the same fan base that FF7 did for the remake. But like when interviewed, the directors basically said like they really want to bring FF8 back because they never got to tell the story that they wanted to tell, right? Like FF8 was very much like Squall's the main character, and then oh no, random headache moments, and now you're playing as a whole other character. Because the original game design was actually supposed to be a dual protagonist story. Yeah, and you're supposed to play as Laguna first, and after you play through the game as Laguna, based on your choices, it would change everything for Squall's playthrough. So when they wanted to kind of bring the original vision back, if they were to ever remake it, they're like, are there enough people who care about this? Right?
Yes, give
Yes,
it to us.
please.
Yeah, I'm like, I totally
We're
agree.
Final
The
Fantasy
8
house,
fan
we'll
base
buy
is
it,
rabid.
whatever.
They're small, but they're rabid.
Yeah, but that's the problem. Like, they're small, so like,
Right.
what do? Do you do like a $200 special? I don't really know, but you know.
That would be a really cool thing though, because then it would almost be like the original Resident Evil 2, where depending on whoever played first, if you grabbed certain items, they wouldn't be there when you went through as the other person, and that was such a cool element of that game as well.
They even tried it again with FF13, because originally FF15 was versus 13, and you were supposed to play as the two different protagonists, but even that didn't succeed, which is why they rebranded as 15. So like they're really touch and go with it. I In fact, I was really surprised that like Greater Unit 3 went the way they did with 16, because like storytelling wise, it feels a lot like FF8, just more mature. But like, I don't know, everyone called that a commercial failure because it didn't have the same fan base as like FF7 Remake. I'm like, okay, but like it's never going to. I'm sorry, but that's just what that is.
Yeah, is that why they brought Final Fantasy 7 back like three different remasters?
Oh no, it's just it's such a large remaster they had to break it into multiple parts, right?
I think it was one of the first games that I actually played that had double discs.
Yep. Yep.
How do you know so much about Final Fantasy
I
franchise?
am
My
a
God.
Square fan, but no, I also know a lot of people from Square, so
Oh, well, that's cheating.
yeah, yeah, I have a lot
Can you
of
hook us
insider
up,
secrets.
please?
Sorry,
Get
what?
us hooked up with the Square people. We love Square.
Maybe.
We
We'll see.
buy everything
Yeah,
they put
I
out.
cannot confirm or deny that, at least while I'm talking to a panel with recorded cameras.
Fair.
I saw they're
Valid.
doing a physical release for 7 Remake and Rebirth and integrate all as one package, and the sheer massive size of that game is it takes 3 PS5 discs to put that all on there, and I'm like, these games are so massive now.
Yeah. I mean, back then they were also pushing the limit, like who needed like 4 CD-ROMs? Like, oh man, there's like a whole 1 gigabyte of game data, unheard of. So, yeah.
It's like when I had my 2 gigabyte, my first computer in college was 2 gigabytes, and I was like, this is so much space, and now I'm like, how did I do anything?
Yeah, that's
with
like,
that
I don't
computer?
know, my 1 TikTok clip or something. There you go.
Right, I remember when games came on multiple 5 1/4 floppies, so yeah.
For the encyclopedias.
Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when it was just DOS games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The actual
Love the
floppies
DOS
on
games.
these.
Oh yeah.
Those were just set up for disaster. I don't think it.
Yeah.
Can you even beat that game? I don't think you can.
I don't know.
But I think it's great, and it helps with preservation, with making a lot of these companies aware about certain games. Like, who would have thought that Atari, classic games would still be accessible? That and people play Galaga and Centipede and Space Invaders still. Like these in Final Fantasy VII. I mean, they made pivotal marks on the gaming space where people revisit them consistently enough. Where a lot of these publishers and companies will look at this and want to bring it back for a remaster, not just to double dip and getting money, but it helps preserve that experience for future generations and people to continue to have access to it. And Atari has been doing huge strides for game preservation with bringing a lot of old titles back today. And one of them, they started porting over Sega Genesis games and Sega games, where Golden Axe is coming over to Atari, and they've been remastering that and going to be re-releasing that. That's going to be accessible in new consoles that they have. I believe it's going to be on their handheld as well too, which isn't a huge price grab. I mean, it's really, really cheap, surprisingly, but that's going to be bringing access to all of the old titles that Dig Dug. I mean, my God, there are games that people have never heard of that are going to be able to experience that on new consoles and things like that. And it's great seeing our friends Sam and Jordan over at Atari and what they're doing for that. I just want to settle. I know we're getting close to the end. We only got like 5 minutes, but I do want to settle some with people in this room. What retro console defines your childhood?
Super Nintendo.
NES.
Super Nintendo, NES,
PlayStation 1.
PlayStation 1.
Super
A
Nintendo.
little bit Atari 2600.
Okay. I'm like, so PlayStation 1, you're definitely the youngest out of everyone so far.
Oh, I'm not the youngest. That's just the first console
Oh,
I played.
okay. So you were like a late nerd bloomer, is what I'm hearing.
I'm 38, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Atari 2600 here.
Atari 2600. Nice. My first, it's not a first console, it's Intellivision, but that goes way back. But what defines my childhood was really the Sega Genesis. We were not a huge Nintendo household. It was Sega, and they even had Risk on that. And we even had the Game Gear where you could bring the full cartridges, where I thought that handheld, and I still have it, was ahead of its time, where a lot of other companies did not realize what they created, where you could bring the full cartridge with you on a color screen wherever you went. it's an awesome feat that they had.
They look better than Game Boy too.
What's that?
All the games usually look better than Game Boy games too.
Oh, I mean,
Quality-wise.
you know, Nintendo didn't step it up until the DS and everything were coming out, but the Game Boy, I mean, Game Boy in itself, I mean, if you've never watched the show Tetris, watch it because it is super interesting how Nintendo released it with Tetris versus Mario going forward. But it was just awesome to be able to bring those games. And I mean, if you bring up Link's, the handheld, I mean, there was only one game I've seen. That was the only game I was really playing. What console defined your childhood?
I'm gonna say the Famicom, Rod.
What?
It's like the Nintendo line, but the Japanese version of it all. So, yeah.
So it's alright.
Yeah, like the reason why there's that separation is because there's a lot of games that never got ported to English.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and I don't know, I played a bunch of all the Asian
Man,
titles.
you were the cool neighbor kid. I'm telling you.
I really
But
wasn't. Like,
Famicom was top loaded too, as opposed
Yes.
to NES, which was had you shoved the cartridge in.
There was a microphone in the Famicom, right?
yeah.
I feel sheltered. I never.
Yes, I had that
never
too.
this thing up.
Yeah, it's really cool, and like that's where they had that's where they started really innovating with weird controllers with like Nintendo. So you know how they've got like the Wii U stuff now,
Yeah.
like and like before there was like the conga drums. Back then there was like things like the Super Scope and like the pistol and all that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
love the pistol. Oh,
Yeah.
it was so fun. Actually, I saw one on the show floor. Somebody actually had one on the floor. It was all metal in the case.
I think the pistol is really cool and like made sense, but like who thought a shoulder-mounted bazooka was the right controller?
You know, I mean, look at the power glove
60
too.
batteries or something like that.
Yeah.
But there was somebody in the neighborhood who had it, and everyone was envious of it. So really, retro games is more than just games. They're comfort, they're memories, and you know sometimes they can be medicine for us. They can be healing. I really, a lot of us believe in protecting what heals us, and that includes retro pixels, codes, and the connection they've helped us build. So take time to replay a classic. Support preservation efforts like the Video Game History Foundation or Embracer Game Archive. And most importantly, keep sharing your stories because your gaming memories matter, and it helps encourage people to want to experience those same experiences too, which is seeing how much joy playing past games brought you. It encourages people to go back and experience that too, and it keeps those games alive. And that's all I really have, so thanks very much.